Now, Dream Team versus Last Minute is kind of, like we mentioned before, maybe a bit of a spicy feud here, because the members of Last Minute were actually teammates of Snuts, the captain of Dream Team. So they, at the last minute, decided to make their own team to take into the tournament today. So what you can look out for is Last Minute running, once again, the comp that we just saw in that last game, LSD3, whereas the team of Dream Team is going to be running that patented Rogue Mage Druid. And so one of the interesting things about both of these teams, once again, there are some subtle similarities here, is that Snuts, primarily known for his Warlock play, is going to be playing the Rogue in this comp, whereas Talvadar, who is normally known for his Shadow Priest play, and maybe a little bit of this Blast Vidar Shaman who won BlizzCon, some of you guys may recognize him, he's actually going to be playing Enhancement today. So these guys have skills that branch across classes, across specs, and I cannot wait to see them throw down today. My initial impressions of Rogue Mage Druid are going to be a lot of burst, a lot of control coming out of these guys, trying to weather the storm of the insane AoE pressure and purging power that we saw last match of LSD 3.0. So once again, guys, we're going to get out of this game just in a second. We'll see you guys afterwards to break down what happened. Back to the casters.
Thanks so much once again, Majira. The game is indeed just about to get underway here. And as you said, we've got Blasphidar playing Enhancement. I haven't actually seen him play Enhancement before. I haven't seen this yet, so I'm really curious to see.
I heard he's been practicing a whole lot on this, though, because this comp that we're going to see this comp a lot, I have a feeling, in this tournament and then going forward in all the regional qualifiers at that point, plus BlizzCon, because this comp is so good right now. The Enhance, Affliction just together, it just rounds out a perfect comp.
Definitely, and we definitely saw Luminosity playing it very well in the previous games. So we'll have to see how Last Minute does here against Dream Team. Of course, Snuts playing the Rogue in this match. He's mostly known for his Warlock play, but playing the RMD for this matchup. And obviously, he's made a very good name for himself on his Rogue as well. So we'll have to see how they can get this opener here. That's so important to get a good opener. He goes in for the Sap onto Oz and immediately opening up onto Blasphidar. He's going to get that Ironbark right away before Soda gets caught into that Deep Freeze into the Polymorph. That is, however, going to force out the Shamanistic Rage from Blasphidar, and he's actually taking a lot of damage right now with that Polymorph onto Soda as well. He could be in a little bit of trouble here. Now the full Cyclone onto Soda. Blasphidar already taking so much damage. The Ice Novas are coming out. He's got a gateway out of there. Is he going to be able to survive through this? Soda just needs to be able to get over to him and actually cast a heal, and it looks like Soda's now out of the CC chain and having to pop that Incarnation, the Broccoli form, to be able to top Blasphidar back off.
Yeah, that CC chain at the start was deadly onto Soda, but he held onto his trinket until just the very last moment and just had to use it. But look at them switch it back onto Shifty that fast, and look at the damage coming out on Snuts, which forces the evasion too. This is really good. They did the thing that they need to watch for is the next CC chain on to Soda. They just really need to stop that CC coming out from Samayam.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to keep an eye on. Ooh, that blind actually comes down onto Soda now, and he's caught out of caster or in caster form. They could be able to line up some nice polymorphs onto him off of that. They get the sap onto him off of the blind. This could be a lot of trouble for Blasphidar once again. He has not yet had to use his Shamanistic Rage. There's the polymorph and the Cyclone. A little bit of an overlap onto Soda there. Now the Shamanistic Rage is going to come out. There's a full stun onto Soda, but with that Sham Rage active on Blasphidar, it does not look like Dream Team is going to quite be able to do nearly as much pressure as they did the previous time around, and they're actually turning it back around onto Snuts now, down to 50% health.
Yeah, they really broke up that CC chain, which is what we need to see against this RMD matchup. And so we do see Shifty is going to take some damage from those dots just rotting on him. He really has to keep those hots on himself while babysitting the rest of his team. And you can see that Shifty is trying to get into that CC chain, but that pushes him out of position pretty far as he does get Shadow Fury because of it. But Blasphidar taking a lot of damage, which is going to, wow, they're going to Cyclone on him, Cyclone the Ironbark, which was smart. And we see a lot of CC coming out onto Oz also.
Yeah, I feel like that Cyclone, that offensive Cyclone, did come a little bit late. There was only a couple of seconds left on the Ironbark. Now Soda was able to get some hots rolling onto Blasphidar, but he's now into that Deep Freeze, and Blasphidar into the Kidney Shot, and that's going to be that. Blasphidar is going to go down. Nice opportunity usage there by Dream Team to be able to get that stun off at the same time on both players and be able to finish him off.
It was great. Soda really tried to gate in, and the second he was mid-gate and landed, he did get deep freezed off of that, so that, you know, RMD CC chains are just absolutely deadly. So that is going to score them the win, as Oz is still going to try to play it out. Of course, you need to try everything possible in tournaments like this, because you never know what can happen when it comes down to 2v3 in these situations, but looks like Soda is going to leave the arena, which means Dream Team is going to take the first map on the Grand, puts them up 1-0 over last minute.
Yeah, that was a ridiculous match as well. I feel like there were lots of points where it could have gone either way. Personally, I'm just really curious to hear what Bajira has to say about that one. So let's just go ahead and head right over to him at the analyst station to let us know what he thinks.
Oh boy, that was a gnarly match right there. One of the cool things that happened really early on is despite that ridiculous CC chain that Dream Team put on Soda's there, he held his trinket, he held everything he had, and then finally popped that Tree of Life right there at the end to save Blaspidar for the moment, because then we saw a ridiculous blind sap combo in a tournament. Snutsrogue is back, boys. He's real, and they locked up Sodas just long enough for everything to roll back around and finally take down Lord Blaspidar himself. So one of the things we saw in the middle of that game, though, is if LSD3 can weather that storm, they may have a window to deal enough damage where they can force some cooldowns out of that RMD. But if we see that RMD use the same amount of control, same amount of burst damage as we saw in that last game, this is going to be a really maybe last minute in the tournament for last minute. With that, I'm going to send it back to the casters.
All right, thanks so much for all of the last minute puns, Bajira. We really appreciate every single one of those as much as possible. But yeah, this could be the tournament life here for last minute if they're not able to pull out a win here. We do have a map choice from them, which is going to be Dalaran Arena.
I do like that choice, especially where they do have that shaman. So anytime that the RMD is clumped up, he'll be able to, you know, hit any target he wants. He'll be able to get the purges off. They really put Shifty out of position a lot during that last match when they were playing behind that pillar. The big thing that last minute needs to do is, while Soda did do a great job at the beginning of staying in stealth, you know, and waiting, I think that just the line of sight at that point was Soda was hiding in the starting area. And when they did get the damage out onto Talbadar, that means that instantly they could just start tossing CC out onto him, because Samayam just stood in between those two, and just that long CC chain was rough. So they really need to break up that opener, because the second start of the CC chain, they reacted to it really well. I thought that they did well with that. So we really have to see if they can come back from that. Of course, it is going to be on Dalaran Sewers for our next match.
Yep. We do have the same two compositions once again, no comp swaps just yet. We've got Dream Team once again playing that Rogue Mage Druid comp, and last minute playing the Warlock Enhancement Shaman and Resto Druid as well. So basically just saying, you know what, we're just gonna change up our map. We feel like the comp is fine, and I agree with them. There was so many points where they could have actually gotten a win there in that last matchup. So maybe just trying it on a little bit of different map, understanding that Dream Team is going to be doing that positioning stuff and trying to go for that double CC, double stun situation again. Maybe they can just say, well, now we know what they're doing, so we can give it a better try here. But the game will be starting here in just about 15 seconds, and we will find out for sure who is going to be able to, whether or not last minute can make a comeback here, or if Dream Team is going to close this one out 2-0.
Yeah, one of the big things to note is Snuts is playing combat. He played combat last round, but his numbers on the board weren't that impressive overall. I think his highest hit was like a 30K eviscerate, you know, but it was his CC is just really what makes this team work well together. Of course, the large burst damage from Samayam definitely helped out, plus his CC also. As you can see that, you know, they can start from behind the boxes with that with the Magma Totem out. So he is going to be looking to try to pop them out of stealth, as here comes the initiation, as Snuts is going to go in with that kidney right away, as looks like we are, their great job with the Shadow Meld into the bash on to Shifty to stop the Cyclone, but look at all the damage that Blaspidar is taking already.
Yeah, and Soda has actually had a trinket already as well, just to be able to keep up the healing on Blaspidar. He's taking so much damage here. The Shamanistic Rage is now about to fall off, and the damage is just not slowing down. However, Oz has popped his Dark Soul and is trying to get as much spread pressure out as possible. You can see a full row of damage over time effects on all of the members of Dream Team right now. And last minute may actually be starting to try to kind of pull it around here a little bit. We do have Blaspidar once again into that stun, and Soda getting caught into that deep sheep once again, the deep freeze with the immediate polymorph right after that to make sure they can keep that CC chain going. Soda now into that full Cyclone as well, but Shifty is taking a little bit of damage. He has to blink out of there, and possibly that could be the little bit of pullback that is necessary for last minute to turn it back around.
I think this is really smart. What happened was in Shifty, when he pushed up to land the Cyclone onto Soda, they immediately swapped onto him. So maybe that's how they can break up this CC chain, because they did do a whole lot of damage very quickly from him without any cooldowns coming out from last minute. So maybe that's the strat change that they need to make this happen. There we go. Now we're going to see the deep. It looks like the ring was stopped, but he is going to have a follow-up poly immediately because we did have the Cyclone onto Oz too. So the cross CC is great as, again, it's going to force out Shaman Rage and Iron Bark from Blaspidar. So that cross CC really forcing those cooldowns out, which means the next time they go for this, Talbadar isn't going to have anything left.
Yeah, definitely. The Iron Bark is just now about to fall off as well. And with that Dark Soul out from Oz, he is actually putting quite a bit of damage into Snuts at the moment. And they do have that offensive Cyclone onto I Am Sam just to slow down that damage a little bit. Now the Cyclone onto Snuts. I think that what Last Minute is recognizing here is, okay, we can win as long as we can limit the damage that we're taking. So they're focusing on CCing the DPS of the Dream Team instead of actually trying to maybe necessarily go for a kill. They know that eventually the rot pressure from the Warlock and the Enhanced Shaman will win them the game, but only if they can live long enough, because Blaspidar took a big chunk of damage there once again. Fortunately, no major cooldowns had to come out. No, excuse me, there was actually a Nature Swiftness that came out of that. So once again, Dream Team just trying to do their best to pull as many cooldowns out of Last Minute as possible.
Yeah, they just need to survive. The Shaman Rage is back up again. They did a great job of going on to Shifty, but Shifty was towing that line of, playing almost too dangerous, like getting too close, but he did have that Displacer Beast to run away. He's actually sitting down and drinking at this point, as you see Sam I Am kind of playing that middle CC, just kind of threatening Blaspidar right now, making sure that they're not going to push up onto that Druid, as Snuts is going to now go offensive. Again, looks like they're going to get the deep onto Soda. They stopped the ring again. Sam I Am is playing extremely deep right now, as they do have the kidney on to Blaspidar and immediately trinketing that blind as Oz gets poly again. So great job by Soda staying out of the CC. Did have to use that trinket though.
Yeah, he just does not want to have to deal with another one of those blind into the sap combos that he had to deal with in the last one. Of course, now he is caught into that Ring of Frost, which means Blaspidar could be in some trouble. But look at I Am Sam. He's dipping so low, down to 2% health. He's going to have to block. Whoa, I almost thought for a second he wasn't going to. But he does block from 2% health there to get a little bit of a heal there from Shifty. But Shifty now in trouble as well, having to try and get back out of there again. Still taking a lot of damage at range. Blaspidar, though, down to 30% health. He does have the Shamanistic Rage active, trying to get away from that, that Frost Orb to take a little bit less damage. There's a killing spree coming out from Snuts, but is it enough to actually score the kill? I'm not sure yet. Soda is caught into that Cyclone just now, but it looks like that will fall off. No, excuse me, right then into a Polymorph as well. Can Blaspidar stay alive long enough to start getting some heals from Soda? The Smoke Bomb comes out. Blaspidar in a lot of trouble, 10% health. He's gonna get back out of there again. He's just running away, trying to get as far as he can in Ghost Wolf form, and the Iron Bark comes out from Soda, and it looks like he's actually gonna be just fine. They put the offensive Cyclone onto Blaspidar to get rid of the rest of that Iron Bark, but Soda was able to get some very crucial heals out onto him.
Yeah, but he's bashed right now. This is probably going to lead to a deadly CC chain. Actually, he Shadow Melts a CC, followed by a Garrote. Shifty is playing pretty offensive. There he goes. He's going to get out of there as the kidney goes down onto Blaspidar again. No CC quite yet onto Soda, as he is going to try to sit behind the box, making sure to stay away from Shaman I Am, as Shifty just taking so much damage, having to Bark Skin by himself, staying out of line of sight, uses that Nature Swiftness to buy him some time for him to heal up himself. Wow. That was just such a back and forth there. They almost scored a kill onto Shifty. It looks like Last Minute is just going for it. They're going to push in on to Sam I Am, as that is going to have Blaspidar is going to be polyed with a Dispel onto it, followed by another poly, but Shifty getting really low on mana. Look at the mana difference on the two Druids.
Yeah, Sam I Am gets so low right now. He does still have his second Ice Block available, does not have to use it just yet, but look at the mana, like you were saying on Shifty, 3% mana versus 50% for Soda. Last Minute, they've managed to live long enough, as we're now just starting to get into dampening.
There's the second block.
There's the Ice
That's
Block.
really good.
Yeah.
This is awesome for Last Minute. They're really turning it around right now because they pushed them off their pillar. With Dream Team playing defensive right now, that is great for Last Minute.
Definitely. So now Shifty caught into that bash for just a second there. Sam I Am still taking a lot of damage. The Iron Bark does come out, and of course there's excuse me. Wow, actually Blaspidar having to overlap his Shamanistic Rage.
He missed his ring. He deeped into ring. The ring landed, but it didn't hit Soda. That is huge, as we do have the Sham Rage out of that too. So this is great for last minute. Soda is can now play defensive, as Oz is going to sit in the middle, as he has the positioning he wants. Look at the damage onto Snuts, as Sam I Am doesn't have a block for another minute.
Yeah, Blaspidar has just used that Ancestral Guidance as well, which is going to help keep last minute topped off as much as they can. And now Snuts, Sam I Am, and Shifty are all getting really, really low right now. There's a full stun onto Blaspidar and now a full sheep onto Soda as well. He's going to go ahead and trinket that sheep. He wants to make sure that they can keep his team as offensive as possible, and I think that's really what they need to do right now, as all of the members of Dream Team are getting so low. Shifty down below 20% health, 8% health. He's in bear form, just trying to keep himself up. He does manage to get out of line of sight just long enough to pop a couple heals on himself, but it's not going to be enough, and Shifty will go down.
Look at Blaspidar, though, that Sham Rage, and with a poly onto Soda, this is not good right now. Blaspidar is by himself with Snuts on his back. He's down to 2% health. All right, now we have a full health Warlock and Druid versus a very, very damaged Rogue and Mage. I don't know. Dream Team really has to make something happen if they want to come back from this. The bash going on to Snuts, who tried to sit down and eat right there, trying to get every little bit possible, as it looks like Snuts might fall to these dots as he does smoke bomb himself to try to get away. The Moonfire is coming out. Wow. Hey, you got to try for it. As,
absolutely.
What a match that was.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. That was literally the definition of back and forth. Like, there was a kill for last minute. They were able to turn it back around and get the kill onto Blaspidar in the midst of that, but then just left themselves too low on health as 2 DPS versus the Warlock and the Druid remaining on last minute. So last minute was able to score themselves a kill, but that was a hard-fought kill. That really was not an easy match for them.
They adapted so well. Complete shout out to Soda and his crew on last minute. You know, they really reacted to stopping those CC chains, and then they pushed them off their box. Oh, such a great match.
Yeah, definitely. So let's go ahead and go over and check in with Bajira at the Analyst station to find out what he thought of that match.
Oh my goodness, we're only just getting started today, and that has to be just like the most insane match of the day, easily so far. But man, there were like 2 separate situations in which both teams, they went at it, they did everything they could, and then they both kind of backed off. Gave Oz a second chance to set up a better port, for some offensive pressure. They went at it again, once again, last minute held on against the pressure of Dream Team. And then after that second reset, Shifty started getting real thirsty. He started having to go for drinks. Meanwhile, Oz was just pouring on the lock damage. If you notice at the end of that game, Oz did 11 million damage. That's like double the damage of both players of Dream Team combined. Now, Dream Team definitely did a good job setting up their CC, although it was disrupted a little bit better by last minute in the beginning of the match. Then once at the middle of the match started to take place, things started to get a little bit scary because some of those deep polys started landing, some of those deep rings started landing. But last minute, being the tournament veterans they are, held on. They pulled back, they played defensively, and they let that Warlock damage go to work. And over time, like I mentioned, Shifty going that really changes how offensive this Dream Team can play. It stops them from being able to run in for those blazing speed, those blink deep polys. Because if Sam I Am is going to be right in the middle of the mix, he's going to start feeling some serious sting in his health bar. If that's the case, Shifty doesn't have the mana to heal him. At the same time, if Snuts is in there, which he has to play aggressively, he's playing as a rogue, he's really working hard to set up that CC, do that damage, but if he's constantly half health, there's going to be a time where he has to pull back. Now, the end of that match, let's talk about that. The LSD3 absolutely ground the RMD into the dust. They made that Druid go with damage, just tremendous damage coming out of the Warlock Oz. That was just ridiculous. And then we almost saw another, we saw a 2v3 cross kill, but when you've got a full health Resto Druid and a full health Warlock on one team and like a 20% Mage and a 20% Rogue, even if they are, North American Online Qualifier Cup number 3 competitors, there's only so much you can do. What I'm so pumped to see is how these teams line up in this next match. I think the RMD really nailed their opening CC in that first game. You know, they really stopped the Warlock's pressure, which was a big deal. If you looked at the damage comparison from last game to the first game, I mean, obviously it was a shorter game, the damage isn't going to be as high, but the actual disparity between the classes was a lot more noticeable. They let that Warlock go ham in that last game. If they can find a way to lock down both Sodas and Oz and continue to keep that pressure going hard on Blastbadar, you know, he's not able to drop his Shaman utility on the map. He's not able to use his healing cooldowns as effectively. You know, you'll most likely see him have to pop Ascendance and try to heal his team with damage right in the beginning of the game. It's going to be a struggle for those guys, but if LSD3, if that last minute team can find a way to keep their Warlock at a CC as well as their Resto Druid and maybe play a little bit defensively, learn from that second game, let RMD, you know, use all their CC, use all their damage, weather the storm, maybe even get a reset, slowly begin to push back as that mana pool for the enemy team's Resto Druid begins to dwindle, that could mean a win for last minute and the end of the dream for Dream Team. Back to the casters. I cannot wait to see this game. Let's go!
All right, thanks so much, Fajira, for that excellent insight as usual. We do have the game just about ready to show you guys here, and Dream Team has selected Tolvaron Arena as their map choice. So much wider map, much larger pillars, going to give them a little bit more of an opportunity to get away from Blastbadar, but at the same time, it could be a little bit more difficult for Snuts to stick to his targets. So we're going to have to see how well they're able to play it out here as we go into this, what will be the final match of this series. Whichever team wins this advances to the semifinals. The other team will be eliminated from this qualifier cup.
And we do see Snuts playing the Shadow Reflection this time. I wasn't sure if he played it in the last match. I didn't see it come out too often, but everything else looks pretty standard from his team. Yep, these are the talents that we would expect out of them. As the gates are going to open, let's see how last minute can handle this opener, because that really determined the match, like the entire pace of the match on Dalaran.
Yeah, definitely. The sap does come out onto Soda, and he's going to immediately Shadow Step over to be able to put that kidney shot onto Blastbadar. Blastbadar is going to go ahead and pop his Shamanistic Rage right away. Wants to keep himself as topped off as possible because he knows that Soda is likely to be in for a very long CC chain here. But no, Soda was actually able to get out of it, and now the Deep Freeze comes out, which could put Blastbadar in a lot of trouble here. He's so low already into that offensive Cyclone to keep him at that 38% health. There is still a ton of cooldowns available for Soda. Will he be able to actually get them off? And yeah, there it is. The Nature Swiftness comes out. That's going to top Blastbadar back off again and keep him a little bit safe for the next few seconds here.
Yeah, as you see, Soda is trying to stay out of line of sight, but also putting himself in a great position to CC Shifties, because Shifty is playing out in the middle between the pillars. Looks like they're going to have a bash on him too, which is going to be instantly trinketed, which forces the NS2 on to Samayam. So that was a great play by last minute. They're really turning around that initial CC, which is what we saw last game.
Yeah, but Soda once again getting caught in that Deep Freeze into the Polymorph. Blastbadar could be in trouble here. He's going to gateway out of there and try to toss a couple of heals on himself, but Snuts is hot on his trail. The Capacitor Totem is trying to come down. Will he actually be able to get the stun from that? And no, it just barely missed him, so he's now out of line of sight over here. He does have the Shamanistic Rage active, but can he stay live long enough for Soda to get over to him? Soda's now caught in a root. Blastbadar does get the Iron Bark, and a few heals do manage to land on. Soda was just barely in range to be able to get those heals out. And now Snuts actually a little bit low here, and getting caught in those roots out in the open could be in some trouble, but no, he's going to get a bunch of heals from Shifty, and he's going to be totally fine as well. Just crazy back and forth at this point. There's actually a lot of cooldowns about to come back up for Soda, though. He's got 30 seconds left on his trinket, so the next push from Dream Team needs to happen very, very soon if they want to really be able to make something happen here.
They do. Now, that must have been a scary moment for Soda right there at the start, with Blastbadar all the way across on the other side of the map by himself with a rogue on him, with a mage with 2 charges of Ice Nova ready, and somehow he lives through that. That's the kind of plays we need to see if last minute wants to take this match. As we do see it is going to be, the ring was stopped out of that deep, but the poly does land. So it looks like last minute is going to have to sit that CC chain on to Soda, as Blastbadar is going to run away a bit. Looks like they're going to switch it back onto Shifty. They don't like that. He's playing right on top of him, as the Cyclone is going to land at half, as we see the Garrote and the poly onto Oz, so that cross CC, which looks like Cyclone onto Snuts too. They're going to turn the CC back on them, but that did force a Sham Rage during that.
Yeah, it also got Soda's Trinket once again, as well as Nature's Swiftness. So Dream Team just doing their best to keep on top of Soda's cooldowns, never let him feel really safe. He does have his Iron Bark available once again, and there's 30 seconds left on Shamanistic Rage. So as this Deep Freeze comes out onto Soda, we'll have to see if they can get any follow-up CC off of that. They do get the blind off of it, and can they get the Sap once again, or are they going to go for the Ring of Frost? Looks like the Ring of Frost did not land, so they're going to go ahead and go for the Polymorph as well. But Snuts, in the middle of all of that CC going out, takes quite a bit of damage. He's going to have to pop his evasion and try to keep himself alive. Shifty's actually trying to just stay in out of caster form a little bit there as well. But he's going to get back over here out of line of sight behind this pillar and be able to heal his team back up again as well. But Last Minute is doing the same thing they did in the last match, which is just survive through all of Dream Team's early aggression so that eventually they can get to the point where Dream Team just can't keep up with the spread pressure that the Warlock and the Enhancement Shaman are able to put out.
Yeah, as Shifty is going to Nature's Swiftness there to bring Snuts' health up, which was great. Now Snuts is just going to sit on the back of Blaspidar throughout this entire match. We do see the Ro8 go out on to Soda right there with a bash onto Snuts also, but Soda eats a Cyclone during that. Shifty did have the Bark Skin there too, so this is a lot of back and forth on cooldowns, but this is the same situation as the start. Blaspidar is by himself, however, he does not have a Sham Rage this time, there we go. Now Soda is gonna run over to him, as we do see that offensive block coming out from Sam I Am right there, wants to stay offensive with that CC to try to land a kill on the Blaspidar, but not able to. That block, wow, that was a dangerous block. I mean, he did have the Cold Snap coming up pretty soon, so maybe that was a smart choice, but hopefully that doesn't come back to haunt them later.
Yeah, I think they just recognize that they need to make a kill happen here very, very soon. They had a brief window where Soda's Trinket was still on cooldown, and so they may have been able to score a kill there. So I think they were just trying to say maybe we can get him right here. They haven't really been going after Sam I Am too much, so I guess he kind of feels a little bit safe using that first block offensively, but fortunately for Last Minute, they were able to survive through that pressure. Now they're actually turning around onto Oz a little bit. They've got him caught in that smoke bomb coming off of that kidney shot as well. Soda's gonna have to run in there and drop a couple heals on him. That's gonna force the Dark Regen as well. Of course, Oz does still have his Dark Soul active, so he's working his best to get as many of his damage over time effects on as many members of Dream Team as possible. And Blaspidar actually he's getting a moment to actually do some damage here. He's actually just running around able to punch people for a second because they're so focused on killing Oz right now.
Yeah, Soda shifted the first poly. The second poly actually landed on Blaspidar, but look at the damage onto Oz right now, who's by himself back in the corner. Soda is actually going to end up catching up with him, using that Nature's Swiftness to bring his health to almost full, but lots of damage still coming out from Snuts, as Snuts does get Cycloned right there with that Iron Bark on him. Looks like they're going to look to get onto Shifty, as Blaspidar is going to try to just force him out of position. I do like this, that they're punishing Shifty for playing offensive.
Yeah, so Dream Team now all hovering around 60% health. They really need to be able to start making something happen here soon. We do have dampening starting to kick in at 6% already. There's the Deep Freeze onto Soda, trying to get the Ring of Frost down, and they do manage, no, excuse me, that ring did not actually land, so they go for the Polymorph instead, which is just fine. That works just as well. Now the Cheap Shot coming out onto Oz, and a ton of damage into Blaspidar, down to 20% health. The Cyclone out onto Soda. Blaspidar at 20%. He does have the Shamanistic Rage active, but that's about all he's got. He's going to go ahead and get over here out of line of sight, but Snuts is right back on top of him again. 10%, 5% health, and down goes Blaspidar, and that is looking really solid for Dream Team at this point. Of course, Last Minute could try to turn back around here, but with all the members of Dream Team at full health, it looks like they found what they needed to do to be able to make that kill window, and they were able to take down Blaspidar, and it's looking like they are going to take this series 2-1.
Wow, they really forced those crazy moments out of Last Minute where Blaspidar just had to run for his life. They knew they couldn't break up that CC chain onto Soda as well as they would like, and that is really what sealed the deal for Dream Team there.
Absolutely. So that is going to be a 2-1 victory for Dream Team. They will be taking the win there and moving on to the semifinals. Unfortunately for Last Minute, I'm gonna steal one out of Bajira's book here and say their DPS and their healing came a little bit too last minute to be able to keep Blaspidar alive. It wasn't as good. I'm sorry. Bajira's were better, but yeah. So that is going to be their last minute in this tournament. Aha! That one flowed a little bit better. As they will be eliminated. Condolences to them. They played some amazing matches.
They did.
So let's go head back over to Bajira at the Analyst station and hear what he has to say.
Hey, that's my boy Lore. So that last game was intense. And obviously, these are some of the best players in the game. These guys are absolutely bringing some of the highest quality arena that we're going to see. But I have to break it down to an outside of like, okay, this is an amazing play. But one of my absolute favorite parts about the game, it happened 3 times, where Blastbadar was getting low. He's like, you know what? My healer's in CC. I got to get out of here. Took the gate. Snuts followed him all the way over there. Blastbadar brought him behind the pillar, said, you want to follow me? Let's go, man. You want to tussle? And they just duked it out, you know, the rogue and the shaman right behind the pillar. It was amazing. And it went pretty well for the first 2 times. That last time, what ended up happening was, and I think what actually made that a very successful moment for Dream Team was the fact that they decided to hit Oz for a little while, really start generating a lot of the healing over time spells to be used on Oz, and then they swapped back to Blastbadar once they landed a clone on Sodas. So I think with all the hots rolling on the Warlock, not a lot of hots rolling on Blastbadar, not even that Shamanistic Rage, not even in that, you know, willing to tussle behind a pillar could save him there. So unfortunately, last minute does go down here, but the good news is for the Dream Team, they move on to the next round. What we're gonna do now, guys, is we're gonna take a short break before we bring you guys the next 2 sets of matches in this first round of 8. Stay tuned, guys. We got plenty more arena for you guys.